Get 5 coffins ready.
What's up everybody, Shimoki here, and today we're going to be talking about 3 gods to one-trick in the support role in SMITE. If you don't already know what one-tricking is, it's when you play almost exclusively one character to the point that you know every little thing there is to know about them, from matchup knowledge to niche mechanics of the character, as well as of course exceptional execution of the character. So since it's pretty much the only god you'll be playing, they need to be characters who are not only good in the meta consistently, but also heavily benefit from learning the ins and outs of them to ridiculous degrees. This video isn't for beginners and will require you to have a basic understanding for each role, but I'll of course be describing each god as best I can, and if you want a breakdown of each character, I'll leave resources from myself and others in the description. So let's roll out with our first god, Geb. And yes, I am terrible, but not as terrible as fighting Geb himself. Not only does he have some of the best area control in the game, he has, and say it with me now, that godforsaken shield. A massive health shield which cleanses hard CC and cannot be missed, and somehow, by magic perhaps, always seems to be off cooldown. More on that later. For now, why he's a good one-trick god. Well, not only is he consistently good by design, with one of the safest knockups and best instant AoE stuns in his ultimate, his first ability rollout allows for all sorts of shenanigans. I personally have only ever used it in the basic ways, but those Geb players who always seem to get the CC immunity at the perfect times and always seem to have long enough duration to get the CC immunity, seem to have a long enough duration to CC someone and still get away are the Geb players I fear. So, Geb not only gives you something to master in the form of that first ability, and how to time it and what the optimal paths are, but he's also just consistently good at peeling even when his damage is on the lower side. And even when his damage is low, he's got pretty good pressure with his second ability. But let's talk about the real reason you play Geb, the shield. It's like Anasleep in Overwatch. I mean, it just counters everything. Some things more than others, but it's still rock, paper, and scissor all in one, and it always makes its presence felt both in lane and in team fights. Sharpening your decision making so that you always get the optimal Geb shield in every fight is certainly a skill unto itself. But even with that said, just slapping a shield on one of your squishies when the loud noises start happening is still more than enough to be useful in a fight. With a low skill floor and a low skill ceiling, Geb is just one of those picks that you can't go wrong with unless you're going against a crazy aggressive lane. And even then, having a huge AoE stun and a massive shield for your carry at the end of the day is never a bad thing. Speaking of never a bad thing, Atlas. I don't know what they're thinking with this guy. Of course, he's super meta right now because his numbers are a bit skewed, but to me he's just one of those gods who's going to be effective every match. A huge problem once he eventually gets nerfed? Maybe not. But like, how's a ranged poke, a ranged pull, a cone pluck, and one of the best guardian escapes in the game ever going to be bad? Not to mention he sets himself up like a set of dominoes toppling over backwards. Every ability combos into another ability, and he just always has an option to deal with every current dual lane in the game. And I think that's Atlas's greatest strength. Sure, some matchups are better than others, but like with Atlas, it never really feels like you're at any sort of disadvantage. And just as importantly, when you are at an advantage, the god feels unstoppable. I mean, some gods just really cannot deal with that second ability, both in its cone pluck form and when comboed with his first ability for that AoE pull. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, if he gets either of those, here he comes charging like a Mack truck with his third ability, and with a fully stacked passive, which he will always have by the way, to completely ruin your day. Outside of his first ability, his cooldowns are a smidge long, but like, so what? His one and subsequent basic attacks through his first ability is still a mechanic that literally no dual lane has an answer for early on. And that just swings back to him being fundamentally really good. Like, his damage numbers need to be cut into a third of their current amounts for him to be considered properly bad. But as it stands, not only is the asshole tearing up the dual lane, but his damage numbers are high enough to the point that he's seen with full-on damage builds in competitive SMITE no less in the mid lane. Again, I do think some nerfs are right around the corner for the guy, but I think Atlas's days of being a common face in the support role are far from over. Speaking of common faces, Yamoja. Yep, it's her. The most nerfed, most picked, and most banned god in all of SMITE's history, relative to her release date at least. Talk about a god that's simply too good at their core despite endless number tweaking. I mean, do I even need to say anything at this point? Great in lane, great in skirmishes, incredible in big team fights, there's just nothing this god doesn't do, and it's very obviously down to her core design. She has no cooldowns and everything is a big AoE, everything does something objectively useful in every single scenario. A stun, a slow, a slowing knockback. I mean, how are you even supposed to live if Yamoja snags you with her reverse 3? I'm not even sure God himself knows that. And the ult dude, if I told you that this ult has been the cause of several hernias of mine, would you be surprised? Not only does it feel the need to be the biggest wall in the game once, but oh no, it decides it needs to be the biggest wall in the game twice and at the same time. Oh, and that Omi resource that helps keep the Yamoja in check, yeah, let's just forget about that for 10 seconds, no biggie. And yeah, I almost forgot, she has pretty solid healing too. Great. Oh, you bought anti-heal? Yeah, well, the heal shields too, so have fun with that. I mean, no hyperbole, it's been over 20 nerfs now and she's still top pick in ban, so if you're serious about support, this is a god you want in your arsenal. She's not exactly top pick in ban in every rank, and I think that comes down to two things. One, people kind of just don't play around you. Like, I've had teammates walk around my Riptides before, so that's a thing. But also, she's a very tricky god to learn for yourself, and well, it's not like my boys Gib and Atlas over there. And she takes a very precise touch to play. I mean, you can really just pay half attention and still do well on those gods, and Umoja is not like that at all. So she's more challenging to play, especially if you don't know all the little tidbits and tricks about her, but like, dude, if you're a serious support player and you master this god, what can't you do on this god that's required from a support? Yeah, nothing, she's broken. Anyways, join me next time when I talk about the partners in crime and our support friends, ADCs. See you then, and thanks for watching.